don't know nobody on this road that can save your soul. Almost lost control now. Tell me what you need in a friend and now. Pray that we endure to the end again. I'm just saying that I'm here for you. When the world turn against you, I'ma be with you. Got my sword in my hand, you can count on me. I won't run and hide, fight mightily.
Waiting on your O.F.I. See the Jacob, I'm the apple of my father's eye. I learned the truth for who I was and it made me cry. If I don't keep the laws of Yah, then I'm gonna die. Living curses, but I'm edifying in my verses. Prepare the hearses for the heathens who be steady.
Do so by Shema Mashiach, Kwamala Kabashai. The 12 tribes are scattered abroad. Greetings to the hopeful elect, building up in the spirit tonight. I want to bring out this quick lesson through the spirit in terms of its title, Is Your Household on One Accord? You know, when we think about this truth and when we think about all of the responsibilities that the Most High has commanded, you want to make sure that you're moving in the right spirit. And you want to make sure that, hey, if you're a married individual, right, that you're moving on one accord with your wife. Hey, if you're a husband, you know, moving on one accord with your wife. If you're a wife, moving on one accord with your husband. You want to make sure that your house is moving decently in order and that everybody is on the same accord. You know, how is it that you're in Christianity and your wife's in Islam? How is it that you're in Islam and your wife in Christianity? You believe the Bible, they don't believe the Bible. You know, so many different things. So you want to make sure that whatever you're doing, that your household is on one accord. You know, you up here striving for righteousness and your children are damn atheists, right? It's time to examine and make sure that we're bringing all of these things to the forefront, because if not, you very well may be on the verge of being sifted out of this. All right. So I'm gonna kick it off with 1 Corinthians 1:10-11. Now I beseech you, brethren, by the name of our Lord Yahushua Mashiach, Jesus Christ in the English, that ye all speak the same thing, and that there be no divisions among you, but that ye be perfectly joined together in the same mind and in the same judgment. You cannot be equally yoked with unbelievers, right? So if you are striving for righteousness and you have a certain moral code that you living by, but the people that you rocking with in your household, or your wife or your significant other or your spouse, if they don't uphold to that same moral code that you do, if the biblical precepts is not their foundation, y'all are equally yoked, and it's gonna be division. So you have to decide, is it worth the sanctity, and is it worth, you know, your household? A house divided among itself will not stand. And we got to know that if you're not perfectly joined together in the same mind, what does that mean? You have the same morals, you have the same values, you have the same way of conflict resolution. So a lot of marriages are falling apart. A lot of households in these end days are being overthrown because you guys don't share a common fabric of values. And that's the scriptures. For it hath been declared unto me of you, my brethren, by them which are the house of Chloe, that there are contentions among you. So chiefly, you want to be moving and making sure that, you know, whatever the foundation is of your belief or your belief system, which should be the scriptures, that you're upholding and that you're teaching your household in the same manner. If not, it's going to be pure chaos, right? And how can you stand strong in the face of adversity if you guys don't even believe the same thing? You know, let's move on. I want to get this quick precept. Let me get 1 Corinthians. I'm going to go 13 through 15 as well. Bear with me. Bear with me. So bam. Is Yahweh Shai, is Christ divided? Was Paul crucified for you? Or were you baptized in the name of Paul? So when it goes, is Christ divided? Now you got to really think about that. If you're saying, or if you're claiming that you're striving for righteousness according to the tenets of a Christian, to be a Christian, are you walking Christ-like? You know what I mean? Like, are you teaching this doctrine, but your household is under a different doctrine? Are you focused on the kingdom, but your household is focused on how to obtain things of the world? And we're not saying that you can't have, you know, certain type of aspirations as far as to be successful, but your success has to be in order. You cannot be equally unyoked. All right. So we want to really keep that in mind in terms of, you got to ask yourself this: is your household divided? Is your household divided? Right? All praise to the Most High Yahweh Shem Shai. Let's get 1 Corinthians 2, 4 through 5. 1 Corinthians 2nd chapter, verses 4 through 5. The book of 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verses 4 through 5, and they read, "And my speech and my preaching was not with enticing words of man's wisdom, but in demonstration of the Spirit of power, that your faith should not stand in the wisdom of men, but in the power of God." So you want to also make sure, once again, it's going to come back to that strong, secure foundation. Are you putting your faith in the logic of men? You know, the world has a lot of different fables, you know, as Brother Baruch was bringing out the other day at camp. The world has a lot of different ideologies out here that are totally contrary to the scriptures. So you got to ask yourself, like, really, what are you in this for? Are you in this for vainglory? Are you in this to appease men? Or are you in this to continue to build up in the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai? All right? That your faith should not stand in the wisdom of men. You should be so confident in the things that the Most High God has stated that he will do for you, the rewards, all right, the peace, the kingdom. And you got to press towards that mark. And you got to have the love and the determination, especially if you're a man leading your household, that you want your whole household to be saved. And you got to put in the effort. You got to put in the effort, you know, no matter how much you work. And it's not going to always look the same for everybody's household as well. What works in order for your household might not work for the next man's household. Hey, everybody still only has 24 hours in the day. But the things that you may instill, or the order that you may instill in your household, might not be profitable for the next man. Now, we don't mean that in terms of the scriptures and following the laws, statutes, and commandments. I mean, in practicality, organizing. You might work 12-hour shifts. You may only have a certain amount of time in which you can spend with your children and which you can spend with your wife, right? You may have only a certain amount of resources that you can provide. You know, whatever is sufficient for your household, you have to make that plan, and you have to be satisfied. You can't never be, let me say it this way. You have to be satisfied with knowing that you run your household to the best of your ability. Keyword, to the best of your ability. And you have to set rules, and you have to stick to them. You have to stick to the standards, for lack of a better word, that you set for your household. And everybody in your household has to be aware of your expectations of your household. It's kind of like being on a team. If you're on a sports team, you know, you might have the coach who sets the game plan. And everybody has to be aware not only of the game plan, but of what role that they play in executing that game plan. Everybody can't be the point guard. So you have to make sure that you're setting your household in order, or else your household will be overthrown, right? I'm going to get this quick precept right? It says, who contemneth things little and little, his house will soon be overthrown. In Sirach 19:4, right? Let me get this real quick. It's the book of Sirach, chapter 19 and verse 4. He that is hasty, oh no, no, this is not what I'm looking for. Salakia. I want verse 1. The book of Sirach, chapter 19 and verse 1, it says, a laboring man that is given to drunkenness shall not be rich. It's telling you, you have to have a certain type of awareness. You have to have a certain type of sober mind. All right. If you just all day damn getting drunk, how are you going to attain a certain level of success? And that drunk could also go off for other doctrines, because you got to think, when somebody is under the influence of intoxication, if they're damn drunk all day, now we know that you have what they call functioning alcoholics, right? But they're still not in their right state of mind to perform at the best of the ability that the Most High gave them. So a laboring man that is given to drunkenness shall not be rich. And he that contemneth small things shall fall little and little. So if you're overlooking small things in your household, ultimately you're going to wax worse and worse. And it might not happen all at one time, right? It's the small things that you let slip through the crack that normally end up becoming big things. And you could have addressed them and corrected them at a point in time when they were manageable. But because you don't correct these things over some dispensational span of time, those things that were small that could have been managed and turn into blowouts. And the next thing you know, by not addressing it early on, or by not acknowledging it and having the courage to take it on, because oftentimes you may see things, right, but you might not have the courage to take it on. You may be dealing with something in your household where your spouse might not like correction. You might not like correction. A lot of people don't like conflict. But you have to realize that conflict breeds correction and understanding. Because oftentimes when you have conflict in a situation, there has to be some type of resolution. Even if the resolution is that y'all not seeing eye to eye, you at least have a premise of where the disconnect is. And Most High willing, you can begin to address those things to rectify them. All of these things are vital and important in your household being on one accord. Your household and being on one mind frame. Even when we look at Matthew 18, when it goes into conflict resolution, if your household is not on one accord to understand that conflict resolution process, then you're going to have opposing views, and you might not be able to reconcile because you're not on the same understanding of how to go about when there are differences, right? All right, yeah, somebody on Folly in the chat. We're not even going to pay attention to that. Moving on, let's get 1 Peter 3:8-9. So you want to be on one accord, right? You want to be on one accord. So that's what we're going over. Is your household on one accord? The book of 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 8-9. Finally, now this is summing up. Finally, now when you think about the sum up, it's saying after all these things, let's sum it up. Finally, be ye all of one mind. Right? Let's go into this mind right here. Be ye all of one mind. Watch this. If we go into this one mind. One mind. It says in the Greek, homophron, agreeing. All right? Be like-minded, harmonious, of one mind. All right? Concordant. So in order for everybody to be, oh my bad, sharing the wrong tab. Let me get back to this. Of one mind. Look at this. Agreeing, being in agreeing, like-minded, harmonious, of one mind. So the scriptures is telling us that in your household, you want to have everybody to be on one mind, to be on one accord, to be in sync, right? To be uniform in terms of their understanding. so you guys can build together. It's hard to build when one person has one way of. Now, everybody's not robots. We understand people have different personalities. You might have different ways that you process things, but we should all still have the same foundation. And that's very important. And a part of being of one mind is examining one another. If you don't know the thought process of your wife, if you don't know the thought process of your children, if you don't know the thought process of those who are in your household, how can you be on one mind? So a part of being on one accord, and this is what goes into having compassion one of another. Having a compassionate approach to being able to examine one another. Sometimes people kind of shell up and clam up because your approach might not be the best, right? You have to learn, and I had to learn this in managing my household, right? And I'm still, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai, Lord willing, every day learning and examining, okay, was that the best approach? All right, understand, okay, let me understand the way my wife thinks. All right, let me see what her body language is like. Okay, when her body language is saying a certain thing, or a certain way, what is she really saying? Non-verbal communication. Looking at my children and being like, okay, I noticed that my daughter is doing A, B, and C. Okay, I noticed that my son is having this issue. Why are these issues occurring? In order to correct something, you first have to understand it, right? Even the scriptures say, understand first and then rebuke. And rebuke goes into correction. But you first have to be able to understand and reason. All right. It's not all about, like the book of Sirach says, don't be a lion in your household. You just going around trying to be a damn dictator. You have to be able to reason, because if not, sometimes your hard-pressed mentality, and not saying being weak, but you have to be able to be compassionate to understand where your household is, and you got to be honest. Okay, all right, maybe my household is not in a position right now to where they're built up to read 10 chapters a day. All right, maybe their understanding waxes stronger when I break precepts down and I do it in a way where I'm displaying through my actions. I had to learn that. It came a time where I wanted to just precept, and that wasn't the best approach for my household. But your household may be different. But you have to understand on how to deliver the word effectively and how to do it without being a hypocrite as well. Because mind you, a lot of times you and your household is not on one accord because they're watching your actions. They're watching your work. They're saying, okay, well, damn, daddy's saying don't lie, but he's lying. Okay. And they'll mark these things. And you'll teach them how to cut corners. All right. Love as brethren, be pitiful, be courteous. Now, oftentimes when you hear the word pitiful, people think, yeah, I'm talking about compassion. And being pitiful goes into being compassionate as well. Because when you're dealing, especially when you're dealing with children, you got to think, you might have just come into this truth, right? I came into the truth, all praise to the Most High. I've been in truth going on 6 years, right? So I'm just now 40. So I came into the truth and the knowledge of who I was as an Israelite, how to keep the commandments and things. And it was a total different lifestyle that I was accustomed to. And I had to adjust. And you got to think, I'm a grown man. So think about how hard sometimes it may be for children, how it may be a difficult adjustment. And if you're not willing to be compassionate and be courteous to, those of your household and guide them from showing them the blueprint and understanding that they might not get everything. You didn't get everything in a day. So these are ways to make sure and to try to guide your household on being on one accord, on being that finely tuned, highly precision machine. All right. Moving on. I'm gonna give verse 9, Salaki. It says, not rendering evil for evil or railing for railing, but counterwise. Counterwise means, but on the opposite, blessing, right? Knowing that ye are therefore called that ye should inherit a blessing. So it's also very important in terms of, in order to get your household on one accord, you all have to understand what your goal is. What is the common goal? What are we aiming for here? Are we aiming for salvation? Are we aiming for temporary, what is it called, gratification? These are things that you have to examine, for lack of a better word. These are things that you have to also be honest about. What are your goals in this group? What are your day-to-day goals? All right, maybe your household is a household that's slothful. Maybe a lot of things aren't getting done because you're unorganized, right? Maybe you're not setting a good example as the head of the household. All of these different things factor into whether your household is going to wax mightier or whether your household is going to be overthrown. So once again, that's why I titled this, Is Your Household on One Accord? All right, moving forward, I'm going to get Amos 3:3 to class. The book of Amos, chapter 3 and verse 3. Can two walk together except they be agreed? And this is powerful. Think about that. Can two people walk together unless they be agreed? Agreed is on one accord. They can't. Because what's going to happen is that one of you is going to be on one agenda and the other person is going to have a total different agenda. And if you have different agendas, that means your focus is going to be different. And if your focus is different, it means that you're not going to be in sync. You might have one objective that you're focusing on accomplishing, and your significant other or your household or your partner, right? And not partnering in terms of any LGBT partner sense, but your partner, even if you think about it in a business has a business plan. You don't have, Lord forbid, and I'm a business owner, so I know this. We have a rigid business plan. And when you have a plan, you want all of the personnel, all of your stakeholders bought into that plan. You want everybody focused on how to execute this plan to the best of your ability so the company can be profitable, so the company can experience growth, so the company can have upturn and not downturn, so you can become more efficient, so you can become more successful. So how much more in this truth, right? In this truth, you want to make sure that you are walking together and be agreed. And the only way to do that is to have the same foundation. And the only way to have the same foundation is for it to be, for lack of a better word, for you to express what those expectations are, right? If you don't know, if your children don't know how to uphold the law, or if your children don't know what's required of them, if you don't know the expectations of a man in his truth, if you don't know the expectations of your sister or woman in his truth, then you're not going to be able to measure up, and you're going to be unbalanced. One person is going to expect A, and the other person is going to expect B, and you might have another person who's expecting C. So you have to be able to weigh it in the balance, and you have to be able to, Lord willing, righteously, right, lay out a blueprint, okay? Now let's get this Job 23:10. And I'm going to go 10 through 15. It's the book of Job, chapter 23, verses 10 through 15. But he knoweth the way that I take. When he hath tried me, I shall come forth as gold. Another thing in terms of making sure your household is on one accord is knowing what to do when you do fall short. Just because you fall short, that doesn't mean that you're out of the truth. Just because you fall short doesn't mean that it's over. All right. So you definitely want to make sure that, because ultimately the Most High is the one who you want to direct and guide your path on the right hand side. All right. My foot hath held his steps. His way have I kept and not declined. So the more that you're striving for righteousness according to this blueprint, the more everybody in your household is striving to righteousness, moving towards this perfection, the more and more you're going to be on one accord, Lord willing. Neither have I gone back from the commandment of his lip. I have esteemed the words of his mouth more than my necessary food. But he is in one mind, and who can turn him? So the more that your household is striving for perfection according to the righteousness proclaimed in the scriptures, the closer that road is going to go from being wide to narrow. And the closer you get to that narrow road and on that narrow path, the less space there is for error. Think about like an aisleway. Like if you get on a plane, if you're taking a flight, when you get on that plane, that aisleway on that plane is very slim, right? You have a lot of people who you got to go damn near one by one in order to get down that narrow path. That's how you, and when you're going down that narrow path, everybody is closer together because there's less room to wiggle. You want to make sure that your household has less wiggle room. That's why in the book of Sirach, I'm going to get this real quick. Precept just came to mind and says, if you have daughters, raise them straightly, right? 1 second, I'm gonna get this quick precept. All right. Bam. Let me get Sirach, the 7th chapter, and bam, this is what I'm looking for. Sirach chapter 7, and I'm gonna start with verse 25. Hast thou children, instruct them, and bow down their neck from their youth. This is teaching us a lot of practical wisdom. It's saying, look, if you have children, you got to correct them. You got to put them on the path of righteousness. You have to show them the way at an early age. And when it says bow down their neck from their youth, from a young age, you have to humble them. You have to teach them that there are not any shortcuts in his righteousness, right? Now, peep what it says though. Reading on, it says, "Hast thou daughters, have care of their body, and shew not thyself cheerful towards them." You want to teach your children, your daughters, to be shamefaced. If they don't know that at an early age, what shamefaced is, what it is to be bashful, what it is to be a daughter of Zion, what it is to be humble, what it is to be modest, then you ultimately are teaching your daughters how to be whores, how to be base women, how to grow up with no etiquette, with no morality, with no sense of pride, not pride on the left-hand side, but with no sense of tact, with no decorum. So you got to keep your daughters in straightly, right? When it says, "and shew not thyself cheerful towards them," that doesn't mean don't be happy that you have children. Is more going into, don't be one of those parents that is too many parents nowadays that they try to be their children's friends. And you're not here to be your child's best friend. You're here to correct and instruct them and lead them in righteousness. Because when you are in the mentality that, yeah, this is my child and this is my child, I'm their best friend, hey, they're not going to respect you. When it comes time for correction, you're sending mixed messages, and it's going to be difficult. And that's why a lot of parents these days are having difficulty raising their children, because they want to play the friend role. All right. Reading on, he says, "Marry thy," and I'm gonna rest there. All right. Bam. I want to bring out, let me get Luke 23 and 32, right? The classic. You want to pray that they're converted, right? 22 and 32, Slaki. So it's the book of Luke, not Loon. The book of Luke, chapter 22 and verse 32. "But I have prayed for thee, that thy faith fail not. And when thou art converted, strengthen thy brethren. You want to make sure that you're doing all you can do to strengthen your household. A big part of strengthening your household is through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, building up their faith. You have to be able to acknowledge when challenges arise, and you have to be able to encourage them through it. You know what I mean? Because a lot of the times people fall short because they don't believe in the reward of steadfastness, of being steadfast. You're not going to believe in the, if you don't have faith and believe in that the Most High God can get you through various situations, you're going to ultimately fall to the wayside. So a big part of keeping your household in one accord is having faith in the same thing. Your faith should be centered in the Most High God, Yahweh, in the name of his only begotten Son, Yahushua. So you want to make sure these things are tenets, are foundational principles to how you're building up and how you're structuring your household. And as your faith is being strengthened, ultimately it's going to be reflected in other areas, right? It's going to be reflected in how you handle disappointments, because every day is not always going to be everything happen exactly how you would want it. We live in a life where there's ups, there's downs. You're going to have time that you're discouraged. How do you deal with disappointments? How do you deal with fighting off demons, with depressions? How do you deal with conflict? How do you deal when things are going good? When things are going good, do you forget to pray? What is your prayer life like? I always say this, and I cut myself every time I do a lesson because I don't fast enough. And it's something that I'm trying to instill more in my household. And me and my wife used to fast once a week. It was a time, I think we was even sometimes fasting twice a week through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. I've gotten away from that, right? And that's not a thing I'm proud of. So all of these truths are a reminder on how to get your household on one accord, on how to get back in order, on how to convert one another. You may have stronger faith than your wife. Hey, you may be a wife and you may have stronger faith than your husband. Hey, you may be a child, right? You may be a teenager in this truth and you got stronger faith than your parents. Your parents might not be in this truth and you may be in their household. So there's many different situations that occur, but at the end of the day, you have to do your best to get your household in order, so everyone can be of one mind, right? And we see it's going to be division in these last days as well. So you don't want your household divided. Let me get Matthew 12 and 25. And Yahushua knew their thoughts and said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. And when you go into that desolation, is destruction, is emptiness. And every city or house divided against itself shall not stand. So you definitely want to make sure that, everyone in your house is on one accord, on one mind frame. And then once again, not to sound like a broken record, but that mind frame is going to come from reading and studying the scriptures. So you all have the same blueprint. It's like building, you're a master builder and you're trying to build this real intricately designed, a master building, this skyscraper that has all different types of, brickwork and crown molding and steel and, glass and all different types of elements to the construction. But you got one blueprint. The foreman has another blueprint. The contractor has another blueprint, and they're all different blueprints, but y'all trying to build this one building. It's going to be a disaster. You're never going to be able to build it. And everything is going to be disharmonious. And it's ultimately never even going to get built up. And if it does get built up, it's not going to last because it didn't have a solid foundation. Everybody was building according to their own belly, according to their own blueprint. We want to make sure that your household is building on one blueprint, and that's the truth, right? And you want to make sure that your goals are aligned. I'm gonna get this Matthew 6:33. That seek ye first. Book of Matthew, chapter 6 and verse 33. But seek ye first the kingdom of the Most High and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. So notice, but seek ye first the kingdom of God. That's your foundation. Your household should be first seeking the kingdom. They should first be seeking that relationship with the Most High God, and not on the form where people say, well, I got a relationship with God. God know my heart. Well, ain't no private interpretation of the word. Hey, sisters, no private interpretation of the word. So you should be seeking a godly relationship according to how the Most High told you to seek the relationship, not according to whatever you want to do. These things should be the foundation of getting your household on one accord. Because if you have, that's why we can't serve other God. Because, and even in the law, it said that if you see, whether it's your wife, your husband, if it was a mother, a father, a brother that were seeking and trying to entice you to seek another God, and in the law, you would be the first to stone them. Now we know grace came by Yahushua, but I use it as a point to show you the seriousness of how, if you're not on one accord, Satan can get you sifted out. Satan can begin to enter into your household through may come through your son. It may come through your wife. It may come through your husband, right? It may come through somebody who's not even, a lot of times, and that's why it says, let not every man in your home, in the book of Sirach, paraphrasing, because the deceitful man hath many trainers. You may have let someone come stay with you for a time being. They might not be in this truth. Now they're bringing their vices. They're bringing different spirits in your household. They're introducing chaos and folly, to your children and to your household. And you got to watch what you watch on TV. Oftentimes, and I've been guilty of this, I'm sitting there, I may be working and doing something. My children are watching YouTube. We have certain things blocked out. You follow what I'm saying? But still certain things can slip through. And you hear something like my daughter earlier was trying to watch this little Roblox show that she watches. And somehow it came up, it said something like gay love on Roblox on YouTube. And all praises to the Most High, the spirit and the consistency of training up our children. She said, hey, Dad, I need help. And I'm on a call, on a business call. Hey, Dad, I need your help, Dad. She literally got the remote. Dad, I need your help. This is off. And when I came over there and saw what she was pointing at, and it says something about gay love or something on Roblox on the YouTube channel. That's supposed to be like a child channel of Roblox, experiences and things. Yet no Roblox. You know what I mean? Because you don't understand how Satan devices are being used to attack our households. So you got to be vigilant. You got to be vigilant, because your adversary Satan is like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. So this is why, as long as your household is, and I really don't like to use this word attune or attunement, right? Because when you say to attune, sometimes people think about some type of esoteric chakras, but I don't even mean like that. I mean to tune your mind to the vibration and the frequency of righteousness. And how do you do that? You follow the blueprint of the scripture. Let's get this Philippians 2:2. Got a couple more precepts, y'all. Philippians 2:2. Fulfill ye my joy, that ye be like-minded, having the same love, being of one accord and of one mind. So I want to get this like-minded right here. Like-minded says emphatic, autos, right? Like-minded, okay? When I not click on the right, select it. Look, herself, himself, itself, he, she, it, same. So it's basically saying of being like-minded, you should be the same as someone else. There should be no difference in the way in your thought process. Now, don't be simple. We understand certain people, right, may think, may go about their thought process different in the sense of how you arrive at a thought. All right, and I say it like that, like my thought process, I may process things more emotional, right? Someone else may process things more logical. Someone else may be a hybrid of emotional and logical, but no matter how they process those things, they still get to the same end conclusion. All right. And that end conclusion should lead back to the biblical foundation. That's how you keep your household on one accord. All right. So back to this Philippians, it says once again, fulfill ye my joy, not be joyful, that everybody be like-minded, having the same love. What is that love? That love is rooted in the scriptures. Having love of the Most High God. And that's how you're going to get that wisdom, that knowledge, that understanding, that discretion, right? Of how to move in a room full of adversity. All right. I'm going to get this Romans 15:4. We got a couple more precepts, Lord willing. Romans 15:4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. So another part of being on one accord is utilizing, reading the prophets, reading the Psalm, reading the proverb, reading the accounts of how our forefathers and foremothers handle certain situations, looking how the priesthood, getting the knowledge, the understanding, right? Reading and building yourself up on the wisdom of the scripture. Because the things that happen beforehand, those are the things that have already been written. They already happened. Certain things were written beforehand to prepare you for the things that come, right? Now, the God of patience and consolation grant you to be like-minded one towards another according to Christ Jesus, or Mashiach Yahushua, that ye may with one mind and one mouth glorify God. Now that's important. One mind goes into your process of prayer, right? You shouldn't be calling on Yahweh and your wife calling on Allah. You calling on Yahweh and your children calling on Buddha. You're not on one accord. You're not praising God and glorifying the Most High God with one mouth, right? So that's what that goes into, being like-minded. It doesn't mean with one mouth that all your mouth is merged together. It means you're speaking the same doctrine, all right? That's how you have one mouth. You're speaking the same, you're bearing the same fruits, all right? Even the Father of our Lord, Hamashiach Yahushua. Wherefore receive ye one another, as Christ also received us unto the glory of Yahweh. So with that, Lord willing, this has been edifying to, definitely encourage brothers, chiefly brothers, and get your household in order. Take the time to examine yourself. Take the time to examine your wife, your children, your dog. Get your household in order. And when you see flaws, or when you see error or ways or areas that you need to improve, don't tarry. Tarry not. And make a plan. If it's a mental plan, if it's a written down plan, start examining and start fixing these things. Because once again, He who contemneth small things shall fall little and little. And soon your household will be overthrown. All right. So with that, we give all glory, praises, and honor to the Most High God, Yahweh. We do so by Shema Mashiach, woman like Yahushai, to the 12 tribes that scattered abroad. Greetings. All praise to the Most High Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Kwam Yashab. Shalom.